Hi, my friends. Today I'm teaching you how to paint this cute painterly avocado. So let's go ahead and get to it. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Tammy and today we are painting an avocado kind of like this. This is a gouache version, but we're going to do a watercolor version. So I have my eraser pencil, my dagger brush, of course, use whatever brush you have. So we're going to just sketch in our avocado guy or gal, I don't know, and a little bit of a shadow there. So we're just going to do little sketch marks here and just kind of this half circle right here that's going to open up into another larger, almost half circle. So just starting to sketch out that shape. And it's kind of looking a little bit funky, but we're going to fix it. And so these tiny little marks are just going to give us the idea of where things go. And of course we want to add in that center, this nice round shape. It's a little bit pointy at the top. So it is a circle with a little bit of a point. So let's just go with that. A little bit, just a little bit like that. Okay, and adding in, just augmenting this shape right here. I kind of think of like maybe, I don't know, it's kind of like a potato, but it's different, right? It's got just a little bit of, it's almost like a circle. This one actually looks more like 3/4 of a circle here. And I've just changed out the lines a little bit. So we can go in and erase if we want, or we can just leave it there. You know, I always say that pencil marks just don't bother me. Really, they don't. So this is there just to map out where we're going. And we're gonna take our dagger brush and I'm going to just start activating this paint. There's a little bit of a bug in there. Hopefully he escapes. That's on him. What you doing, bro? All right, so I'm gonna add a lot of water into this mix here. I did add a lot of water and we're just gonna start adding in our first wash of color. I'm going pretty light. We've got a lot of pencil marks, or the, what do you call it? The little specks from erasing, and that's okay. Those we can brush off, especially once everything is dry. So I'm just painting in my avocado shape, holding the brush really loosely, knowing that we're gonna do several washes of color. So I'm just not worried, washes or details. I'm just not worried about too much here, adding in this color, because we'll do details over the top. So, and remember with watercolor, we always start light and then we go darker. So I like to add lots of water to my initial wash so that, you know, we can have a very light layer. And then we have lots of freedom if we want to go darker later on. Okay, so there is that part there. I'm going to let that kind of hang out and chill. I want to paint my background, so I'm going to take this blue that's already there. I love it because it's really light. I'm going to add a lot more water to it. And just like I did with the gouache avocado, we're going to start painting on our background really lightly. Now, this paper is, and I'm being very careful on the edges, and I can fill that in later. I just want to give them enough time to dry. So we are just going to kind of create a little bit of a border here with our paint. I could have taped the edges down. That wasn't very important to me to have really like straight edges or perfect edges. So I'm just kind of eyeballing that. And I wanted to do a background because I don't want our avocado just to look like he's floating in space. I don't know why I think he's a he, but this is going to help kind of ground it. It has a background. We're going to do a little shadow as well. So just adding in this color little by little. Some of that green is going to come out, and that's okay, and bleed into the blue here. Now I'm going to add a little bit more saturated paint in there. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to get some texture, some blooms, because I'm adding wet paint on top of paint that's already starting to be damp. It's starting to dry, so it's not quite totally wet. And what happens is when you add that wet paint over the top of that first layer, it's going to push the original paint that was there, and it's going to create what we call a bloom, or kind of a cauliflower shape. And when you have a background like this, I think it's quite interesting to have those little blooms. The texture is key to very interesting background, if you ask me. So we have our background painted in, a few more spaces, watery paint, just adding that in. But it's thicker than what we first started with. I added in more pigment, and so you're going to see a little bit darker color here, a little bit of a contrast, just a little, not a ton. All right, I'm gonna hit this up with a little bit of a heat gun. We'll be right back. Okay, so a little bit of this is still kind of wet. As you can see, we've got some blooms here, some texture. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some brown here onto my palette, and I'm just gonna kind of grab a space right here. There's some orange on my palette, that's okay. We'll just add in some brown, no worries. And with that paint, we're just going to start adding in our seed, that first layer. So it's really light. And you might even get some dry brushing, which is kind of pretty too. And that's where your brush is just starting to run out of paint, and you're getting kind of this, this dragging of your brush along the paper. When there's texture too, that's gonna cause a lot of that texture, that texture is gonna cause a lot of that, that brush to kind of bump along and leave some spaces where there is paint and other places where there is not. So skip along, is that what I'm trying to say? Probably, maybe, I don't know. All right, so that's the first layer of our seed. It's a medium value, and I can even take some of that paint off if I want. I can just kind of scrub here and lift, maybe for like a little highlight, you know, whether or not we need a highlight. There we go. Okay, so next what I want to do is, and you see how we've got some bleeding here, which I think is lovely. I'm going to take a darker green color on my palette. Let's see what we have here. We've got some sappy greens. That's kind of a bluish green color there. And we're going to add some of this darker brown into this green because this is just too intense of a blue green for me. A little bit of that brown, adding that in just to make it less of that intense blue. So this is pretty watery. I think that's probably okay. We're going to outline our avocado in this point. And you know, avocado has a really nice thin skin. And so we just want to emulate that right now. So I am just doing these, what I would call sketchy marks. As you can see, it's not a continuous line, and I'm doing that on purpose. One reason is, of course, I am talking and painting, and this can be a challenge, and I need to go slow. But also, I just like the look, a little sketchy look for me. I think it looks nice, painterly, all the things. Maybe not more natural, but it definitely looks more natural. Sorry, not more natural, more interesting to me. So we're just going along this line, trying to keep up with that light sketch that I did at the beginning. Nice thick skin there, thick skin. I say that I'm trying to paint. Usually I'm doing voiceovers, but today I'm just trying to paint and talk as I paint live here. So it can be a challenge. I also have lots of airplanes that go by, and I have to constantly stop the footage and wait for that to go by so that you guys can hear what I'm saying. So I think I'm going to thicken this up. I was going to do like a shadow around, but I think this is going to work quite nicely. Okay, so it's that edge of the avocado. And I do want to add in some nice marks here in the inside. So I'm going to utilize the same color but that I used for this light one, but less intense. Less light, wow. Less light is what I'm trying to say. Just kind of darkening up there. So I'm just going to, I use a little bit more of an intensity with the pigment versus adding a ton of water and a little bit of pigment. And I just want to add these marks to give it a little bit of interest. I'm not going to paint the entire thing the same. I'm not necessarily doing shadow sides, but I do want to make it look unique and kind of fun. So I'm cleaning off my brush, dabbing it on a rag, and just blending out some of those lines there. So we'll just see. We might do another shade as well once this is dry. I might actually do a little bit right now, a little bit darker, darker color here. And we have to work on the seed as well. I'm just going to blend that out just a tad. All right, a little avocado is coming together. So now I'm going to take my dark brown color and add it to where I had the light brown. And I'm just adding more paint to that wet paint there, to the wet paint and the water. And we're just going to, I think, outline. That's what we're going to do. We're going to outline this seed and then just do a little bit extra on here. I don't want to paint entirely on top of this avocado brown, this light seed color that I had first. Just want to add in some depth and some interest, just like I did with the green here. So just putting that paint on there. I think I'm going to completely cover this and then lift a little bit of color, and that's going to create a whole different look. And here I think I'm just going to leave it that way with that little highlight sticking out. So I'm going to clean off my brush, dab it so it's just damp, and then I'm going to lift right here, which looks very different than if you just leave it like that. Does that make sense? Okay, so I do want to, I like that this bleed is happening here. I think I want to darken up this edge here. So I'm going to take some brown into my paint. That green is so intense, but I just want to make it darker. So I'm going to go over this again because the avocado has a really, really dark skin, doesn't it? And so we can go ahead and make some marks. And again, not necessarily interested in covering all of it, but just adding in a little bit more dimension. So we're doing that little sketchy look again. Just a little bit of sketching until we have everything complete here for our little avocado guy. And then I'm gonna have this dry and I'll come right back to it. So now I'm gonna add just a little bit more, let's mix these two together, a little bit more of the brush strokes here just to, like for example, darken up this side a little bit and then make a few more interesting marks. I think I would like to do that. So I'm just gonna blend this out a little bit and then maybe just a little bit more just to add some, like I said, add some interest here and there. And make it very random. It doesn't have to be like necessarily purposeful. Just when I do painterly things like this, I don't want to think too much about it, but just add some marks where I think makes sense. And then just a little bit more brown on there. A little bit more here. Just a little variation of color here. And I really like that stroke. I don't know, I'm just not gonna blend it. I'm gonna leave it how it is. I just think it looks kind of fun. So now I wanna add just a little bit of a shadow. So what I do is I take my brown and I take a dark blue color and I mix those together to create a nice gray, blue gray. So that was a lot. Let's add a little bit more brown. And you can leave it blue too. Shadows are not gray, and they tend to reflect the colors that are around them as well, especially a cast shadow. We're just gonna do a little shadow off of here. You know, what's the avocado sitting on? I don't really know, not worried about it. Just wanted to add a little bit of dimension and interest here. Okay, just a little bit of shadow. Here is gonna be the darkest part. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of the blue, a little bit more of the brown, and just try to just dab my brush, try to add a little bit more right here of the darkness. Okay, I'm just dipping into my blue and darkening that up a lot. Right there, it's gonna be the darkest part. And just let that bleed out. And a little bit more over here. And then a couple more things real quick. I'm gonna grab some brown and make it a little bit thicker because I don't wanna have to do more than one layer, really. So that one's a little bit of reddish brown color, that'll work. I just wanted to do just what I'm assuming or pretending that there would be like a little, just a little stub of the stem right here on the top. And, you know, we cut it open an avocado. Why is the stem still there? I don't know. But I just thought it would be a fun touch. Let's just do our last thing, I believe. Of course, as I think that, I'm like, let's just dip into the saturated brown and add a little bit more, just kind of some brush strokes here. Since we're going painterly, let's leave it at a painterly space. All right. The last thing is to do a little bit of splatter. So I'm just gonna grab some of this medium blue onto my palette. Now I'm not going to do splatter with a dagger brush because a dagger tends to just spit things everywhere and it doesn't usually create a very even spray of color. So I'm just gonna use this round brush and we're just gonna gently tap it, add in a little bit of splatter just for some interest in this little cute avocado painting. All right, there you have it, guys. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys soon on the next video. Remember, I teach watercolor on Patreon. Link is in the description of the video if you're interested in checking it out for bonus content. And remember to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.